folks, in tonight's film I'm going to be making satay roasted pork. Ooh. Let's have a look at tonight's ingredients. So this is a two-stage recipe. So tonight these are the ingredients that I'm going to be using. I've got a roast pork joint, or a pork joint just there, which has been rolled and tied. We'll talk about that shortly. I'm using peanut butter, and then for my seasonings, herbs and spices, I'm using rock salt, pink rock salt that is. I've got chili flakes, smoked paprika, cumin, turmeric, coriander, mixed herbs, garlic salt, and some spring onions. Tonight is all about preparing and seasoning the pork. Tomorrow all the recipe goes together, and the other ingredients that I'll be using tomorrow are just here. We'll go through those. So I've got 400 ml of coconut milk, 2 carrots, 2 portobello mushrooms, 1 red onion, and some baby new potatoes. This is going to be a complete meal in one pan, and I think it's going to be right tasty. So first things first, I am going to release the pork from its shackles, and I'm taking the string off it. But that's the string now off, and I can hopefully get this to sort of stretch out a little bit more now. I've got a good sharp knife, and what I want to try and do is get between the pork joint and the fat on the outside, and I want to cut into it and cut around. So I'm separating the fat from the meat. Now I'm not taking it off. I want to create a flap of fat above the meat, but I want to leave about that much intact so it acts like a hinge, and then I can peel the flat back. Okay, let's have a look at that. So if I peel that now, that's going back. That's about right. I might just trim it a little bit more, but I'm just about there. That's it, that's good. That's nice. So now it's a case of getting my seasonings and my spices in there. I'm going to begin with the salt, and I want to rub salt into the pork joint. I want to rub it into the fat and into the skin. And in fact, I want a bit more to rub in there like that. That's good. I want it to feel like it's got a salty coating. And then I'm going to repeat that with all of my other herbs and spices. So chili flakes, I'm going to pour it onto the fat. Nice generous amount there. Smoked paprika. I've got my cumin. Turmeric. Just the same. Coriander. So mixed herbs, which are Italian rather than Indian, and this is not actually an Indian dish anyway, but I do love Italian mixed herbs in everything. Garlic salt. And I'm just going to mix this together with my finger so it's on there nicely. Then I'm going to take my spring onions and I'm going to top and tail them and just keep this nice bit in the middle, and I'm just going to peel the outside layer of skin off them. So I get rid of this bit and just keep the nice bit just there. And with my spring onion, I'm simply going to chop it into little pieces like this. My kitchen scissors have broken this week. I'm using stationary scissors. Any good recommendations out there for a very good, decent pair of kitchen scissors? My last pair lasted me over 20 years. So I'm just continuing with the spring onion, getting that in there. Yeah, it smells great with all the spices. Okay, so that's all my spring onion in there. Now it's time to add the glue, which is the essential nuttiness of this recipe. And that's peanut butter, £1 from Barry's Bargains in Concert, County Durham. Good old Barry's. So using the back of a long-handled teaspoon, like so, I'm going to try and paint the flesh of the meat. I might have to use my finger as well, improvise. I don't want to dip that back in now because it's got meat on it. Okay, what I'm going to do now is close the sandwich. So I want to get this meat this way now, and I want the fat to press all those spices and flavours into the meat. So using the string that I cut off the meat, I'm now going to put it back around the meat, but I'm going to tie it a different way. So that's one piece on. You can see it all bulging out. I'm trying to keep it in as much as possible. I don't want it to leak out if I can help it. And then I'm going to tie the other end of the meat in just the same way. Okay, so that should, in theory, hold the meat in place. There. So there's my meat and there's my saucepan. Now I'm going to cook the meat on top of a bed of sliced potatoes and carrots, but I'm not doing them tonight. I shall do them tomorrow. But what I want to do tonight now is to take my meat, pop it in the saucepan, just as it is, lid on, and I'm going to pop this in the fridge overnight, and I'm hoping that some of those flavours will work their way into the meat. I'll catch up with you tomorrow for the rest of the recipe, cooking and tasting. See you then, folks. Hey folks, I'm back. It's the next day. It's time to get this recipe put together. But before I do so, I'm going to make one slight change to what I said I was going to do. Now, I did say yesterday that I was going to add 2 carrots. Well, I'm just going to add 1 carrot. And that's because I went to Halifax today and I went into the market, and while I was there, I saw one of these. This is called a mooli. And apparently, it's somewhere in between a turnip, a carrot and a radish, but it goes very well in spicy food and curries. So instead of having 2 carrots, I'm going to have 1 carrot and some mooli. Not all of this, there's far too much of it. It's all about the mooli, mooli, mooli. Anyway, enough of that frivolity. Let's have a look at the meat. There it is. It's been sitting overnight in the fridge and I'm quite happy with that. So what I want to do now is get the oven on so it's getting nice and hot, and I'm going to put it on at 220. So this needs to come up to temperature. It's going to take a little while. So in the meantime, let's get my veg prepped. I'm going to temporarily take the meat out of this pan and just put it in this one because I want to put my veg in here. Okay, I've got my pan here and the bit of liquid you can see is just off the meat. But what I want to do before I add any veg into this pan is get some olive oil in the bottom, and I want to give it a good coating. So I'm going to cover the base of the pan with vegetables. I'll begin with the potatoes. I'm going to cut them into about 1 centimetre thick pieces like so, and then layer them along the bottom of the pan. You can just see that to the side of the picture. And I've got to do that with quite a few potatoes. And what I want to do is to create a bed of veg upon which I'm going to put the meat, so that when it cooks, the juices and the flavours from the meat will then help to flavour the veg. Okay, so there I've got a layer of potatoes, and on top of those I'm going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil. So now I'm going to do my carrot in much the same way. I want to get pieces that are about so big, and then I'm just going to dot these around the potato. So you've heard of Moulin Rouge? Well, this is mooli huge, and it is blooming massive. It is at least ½ metre long. I'm definitely not going to use all of it. What I am going to do is cut the bottom bit off, because this rooty bit here I don't want. And then I'm going to start to cut this into circles in much the same way that I did with the rest. I'm not peeling this. I'm not worried about a little bit of skin. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, to be quite honest. It's definitely got a softer texture than the carrot, possibly very potatoey actually in terms of how it cuts. So I've got that much left, and then I'm just going to dot the mooli around on here too. Trying to just spread it all about. Spread the love. Okay, that is most of my veg done for tonight's dish. I'm going to give the whole thing a bit more olive oil now, as well as a dash of salt. I'm now going to put my pork joint on top of the veg, and you can see hopefully now what I'm getting at with this cooking. So everything that comes out of the meat will flavour the veg, and hopefully it'll all roast nicely. I'm going to put the lid on for now, just while I'm waiting for the oven to get warm enough. And while I'm waiting for the oven to heat up, I'm going to make my satay sauce. So I'm going to add a little drizzle of olive oil into this saucepan. I've got my red onion and I'm going to top and tail it. Get the outer layer of skin off. Now I'm going to finely chop it into nice little pieces. Then I'm going to put the onion into my saucepan, trying not to drop too much of it on the floor. It helps. Now it's heat on, and I need to turn that down, and I want those onions to start to simmer. Right, the onions are sizzling, but the oven has got up to temperature, so it's time for the meat to go in. So the oven is currently at 220 Celsius. Meat's going in, and it stays in there for 20 minutes before I do anything else to it. The onions are sizzling, so now it's time to get some seasonings in there. So I'm going to add some turmeric. I'm going to add some cumin, just a few shakes of each. Some coriander, some mixed herbs, and some garlic. I'm going to stir that together. Smells absolutely fantastic. And I want them to sweat a little bit now. So I'm going to put the lid on and let some steam build up inside there. I don't want my onions to burn, so I'm going to add a little bit of water in, but it's not just any old water, it's peanut butter water. And this is just something I do. When I get to the end of a jar of peanut butter, I put hot water in and shake it about, and then you get the nutty essence of the flavour, and I use that in cooking. Normal water would do, by the way. So you can see that some steam has built up, but I don't want these to burn onto the bottom, so here's some nutty water. And again, I'll let the steam build up. I can see that this is coming to a little bit of a simmer, so I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients now for the satay sauce. I'm going to begin with the coconut milk, and I've got 2 cartons of this, and this is quite thick stuff, as you can see. I might need to cut into these and scrape out. In fact, having scraped the first one out, this is definitely a better way to get it out. Just cut the whole top off. Voila. So what I want to do now is to just break this up a bit and stir it round and get it all mixed in together. Yeah, it's working its way in nicely. The coconut milk has now melted nicely into the sauce, but I want to thicken it and make it even nuttier with 3 generous dessert spoonfuls of peanut butter. So in they go. Number 1. And finally, number 3. So this will take a little bit longer to melt into there, but it will have a very pleasant thickening effect. I'm going to put the lid back on and let it do its thing. The sauce seems to have thickened very nicely. The peanut butter has done its thing, so I'm quite satisfied that I can now turn the heat off of this and leave it for now. So it's simply a case of putting the lid on and just leaving this now until I need it. In all fairness, this is quite a relaxed recipe. You don't have to be doing everything all at once. It is quite in stages, so I'm quite comfortable that this is going to go nicely. This has been in for 20 minutes, so I'm just going to titivate it a little bit. It's sizzling very nicely. Oh yeah, it's looking good. I think we can all say that looks pretty decent. So I'm going to add a little bit of liquid now, just so it builds up some steam in there. And this is more of my peanut butter water. And then this is going to go back into the oven for another 10 minutes. I'll be back in 10 minutes time. So it's been a further 10 minutes and I'm now going to turn the temperature down to 200. I'm going to leave it at 200 for another 20 minutes and then we'll have another update. So 20 minutes are up. And look at that now. That is looking quite decent. So I'm going to give my satay sauce one final stir, and this is now going on top. I definitely don't want to waste any, so I'm just getting the spoon in there. Okay, so there is satay roast pork, but it's not done yet. Now I'm going to put the lid on and I want some steam to build up in here. So it's going back in the oven for 15 minutes. I'll be back. Okay, 15-minute update. I'm just getting it out. On there. Look at that. Oh, yes. So this is now going to go back in the oven for one final 15 minutes with the lid off, and then it's done. Catch you in 15. Okay, the oven is now going off. It's 15 minutes later, and this is just about done. And when I say just about done, I've still got a little bit of titivating to do. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is satay roasted pork. And it doesn't look too bad, does it? So I'm just going to separate the pork from the vegetables and just pop that on here to rest. And there's the veggies. I'm just going to stir them and mix them together, getting them all saucy and coated. Okay, so that's fine, they're good. I'm going to put the veggies back into the oven. The oven's switched off, but it'll keep them warm. And as for my pork, I'm going to cover it over and just leave it for 15 minutes to rest. Okay, the meat is rested. It's time to cut it. So I've got the big chopper. I'm just going to hold this in place. Start at the end. The fat will probably come away. I'll just snip through the string just there. Oh, that's lovely. So tender and juicy. And you can see the colour just here where all the spices are. So you're going to get a very porky bit that's not spiced, and then all of a sudden you're going to get that bite. It's going to be a nice mixture. Okay, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to cut it all actually. So ladies and gents, that is satay roasted pork, sliced and ready to serve. And boy, is this going to be tasty. In fact, let's find out. Oh, that's gorgeous. Wow. The meat has really absorbed the flavours from the spices. That is satay. That is great. Last time I had satay that tasted this good, I'd paid for it in a Chinese restaurant. That is incredible. Right, I've got the veggies out of the oven. It's time to dish up. Okay, there's a selection of potatoes, carrots and mooli, which incidentally the mooli is also called daikon, I've just found out. So let's add a bit of satay pork to it. There we go. Now that doesn't look too bad. Now there is pork fat on there, and if you don't want to eat the pork fat, you can just leave it. I won't be eating it. In fact, I might make some crackling off it afterwards. But that looks pretty decent. So I've already tried the pork, and it's stunning. But let's just have a look, go at the vegetables. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Super. Right, let's try a bit of mooli. I'm very curious. It's very nice. It's got a bit of a water chestnut quality to it. It's much wetter than the potato, as in it retains moisture, and it's got a nice crunch. The flavour's very delicate, but it goes really well with the sauce. Very delicious. Oh, yes. Sauce is stunning. Okay, folks, I need to eat this. I'm going to enjoy it. Hope you've enjoyed the film. Get making one for yourself. Catch you next time. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.